In a previous lesson, we were talking about three key skills that I think make a huge difference to your ability to not only succeed in cloud computing, but also your ability to maintain interest and focus and enjoyment across a career through cloud computing. And those three areas were tools, communication, and problem solving. Three simple basic concepts that, when collectively combined together, fairly well describe exactly what information technology's big appeal is for all of the businesses of the world out there. Let's dig a little deeper. Now, this first category, a love of tools, is one that I can get behind wholeheartedly because I've been in love with tools ever since I can remember. As a young child, I very well recall watching my father cut and build and craft things from raw materials like wood and steel and stone to create homes and furniture and toys, things that are useful to solving everyday problems. And one of the other things that I think is really important about tools is that a love of tools is kind of akin to being human. If you ask a scholar or you look online how to define humans in a way that separates them from the rest of the animals on the planet, one thing always comes to mind: our ability to craft and create tools to help solve problems. And so even way back in the day, at the dawn of time, when humans were basic hunters and gatherers and only had access to rudimentary components like stones and sticks that we could gather from the areas that we lived in, humans were still looking at problems that we were running into every day, such as being able to move heavy objects around. This was a real concern and something that made us confront our own physical limitations. But through the assemblage of these stones and sticks into a tool, we were able to overcome this seemingly impossible feat. And most importantly, allowing us to go beyond our own physical limitations. Now we're working smart, not just working hard. Fast forward to the modern era, and times have certainly changed. The components and tools that we're using and the types of problems that we're trying to solve have changed, but our dependence on using tools to overcome our limitations is stronger than ever. And this has led to a huge and ongoing diversification in the types of tools that we need to be able to be proficient with. And really helps me reiterate the importance of being able to pick up new tools and run with them. This is a skill that's going to serve you well anywhere you go in information technology, and especially in the fast-paced world of cloud computing. An industry which is making it easier and easier for organizations to innovate, adapt, and adopt new tools. And speaking of organizations are also full of humans, and yet another key characteristic that helps define us is our ability to communicate with one another. And when we think about what it took for those primitive tools to become the modern tools that we use today, communication was at the heart of all of that. Each generation had to be able to pass on the learnings of the generation before so that we could increasingly improve upon the things that the generation before us had built. This has continued on all the way into the modern day and continues on into the future as we speak. At the heart of all of that was our ability to communicate effectively and pass that knowledge forward. And so without any of that communication along the way, there could be no progress. Now, the general definition of communication is the successful transmission of, and most importantly, the interpretation of information between two entities. Successful being the key term there. Simply talking at one another without being able to understand what the other is saying is not effective communication. And it breaks down our ability to create progress and move forward. And one of the simplest constructs that's at work in human communication is the use of language. Language being the words and meanings that we give to things to help facilitate this communication. And sadly, this is exactly where the wheels fall off the bus, because there isn't one common language that we use all over the planet. Similarly, when we take a look at information technology, we run into the same problems. Systems don't speak the same languages, they're not leveraging the same technologies, and there is a requirement, nay, an opportunity for you and I to go out there and play that role where we help translate or integrate these systems, or use cloud computing service providers out there and their tools to help translate or integrate between these systems, thereby enabling communication and getting our progress and innovation train back on track. Now, all the job opportunity aside, I also love the fact that in the world of cloud computing, we're often creating the next generation of communication tools that humanity will use to create conversations in the future. A career in information technology and cloud computing is a guaranteed front row seat to this progress. From our conversation around tools and communication, we can pretty easily pivot over to our final topic, problem solving. Just a few moments ago, we talked about how communication can help us interact with the players, understand the nature of the problem, understand the way the tools can help us solve that problem, and make sure that we get that alignment right so that there's satisfaction for folks like the business teams who need the tools and the technology teams who are going to be delivering those tools for them. Heck, it was problem solving that started off the whole need to create tools in the first place. Remember we were talking about lifting those heavy objects? So in a lot of ways, I see cloud computing and technology as the visible face of human evolution and progress. It certainly is a culmination of those three skills we were talking about: tool using, communication, and problem solving. And hey, those skills have gotten us pretty far already and will continue to drive us on into the future. So be sure to check out the rest of my cloud computing lessons while we take a look at the role that virtualization, automation, and wide area networking has played in the creation of cloud computing services. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.